going through some brief partner intros, the main partners who were instrumental in setting up the hub. We'll go on to give you a little bit of background on the hub. We'll do a brief demo of some of the functionality of the hub. And finally, we'll close with a little bit of time for Q&A and just some final words. The goals for today are mainly to just introduce this resource and the partners behind it, show you how to navigate and engage with the hub, and invite you to help us grow and maintain this site and its contents. It's really meant to be a living resource, and so we welcome everyone's active participation with the hub going forward. Just as a quick reminder, if you have questions during the program, please use the Q&A function in the Zoom webinar. That'll be the best way for us to be able to see any questions you have. So with that, I will turn it over to representatives from the three organizations behind the hub. Ray Demers, Adam Meyer, and Mike Henshin will each say a few words about their organizations. Over to you, Ray.
Thanks, Lucas, and thanks everyone for joining us today for this launch of the Multifamily Affordable Housing Decarbonization Hub. My name is Ray Demers. I'm a Senior Director of Sustainability here at Enterprise Community Partners. Enterprise is a national nonprofit that exists to make a good home possible for millions of families without one. We are a 40-year-old organization with over 20 years of experience delivering best-in-class technical assistance and programs on sustainability through Enterprise Green Communities criteria and certification, on climate resilience through our Keep Safe program and our Resilience Academies, among others, and now in the field of equitable decarbonization. We care deeply about affordable housing decarbonization because we know that those with the least will be affected the most by our changing climate. By raising the discourse and directing partners to relevant and timely content as they embark upon this newish way of design, construction, and sometimes policy making, this website will be an important and trustworthy hub of knowledge. And I'll turn it over to one of my colleague friends.
Thanks so much, Ray. Echoing Ray, really appreciate folks joining us today for the launch of this hub. I'm Adam Meyer, and I direct the Green and Healthy Communities initiative at the Housing Partnership Network, which is a 30-year-old network of about 110 nonprofit organizations working in the affordable housing and community development sectors. Over 80 of those organizations are multifamily affordable housing developer owners of portfolios with approximately 500,000 rental units in operation. A number of our members are developers or lenders of affordable housing, affordable home ownership projects as well. And we have about 35 community development financial institutions or CDFIs that do lending to affordable housing projects and other built environment projects. The preservation and enhancement of affordable housing is pivotal to our members. And in many ways, climate solutions can contribute to overall housing preservation and quality. Many of our members and their residents are already facing the impacts of climate change now, and the threats of climate change's impacts loom large. So building resilience is a really important and growing significant element to their work. Further, many of our members are in jurisdictions with building emissions performance standards, and others still have established decarbonization commitments. And while they've evaluated the feasibility of decarbonizing, there are still substantial gaps in information, technology, and really organizational capacity to solve the decarbonization crises. We have practitioners on the ground asking questions about how to achieve decarbonization day in and day out. And we felt it really necessary to stand up a platform with great collaborators and knowledgeable folks across the sector in order to do that, and hopefully to reach beyond our member network in really meaningful ways to support decarbonization more broadly. And I will pass it over to my colleague at RMI.
Well, thank you, Ray. Thank you, Adam. It's pleasure and honor to follow you guys here. I represent RMI. RMI is a global nonprofit. We work to transform energy systems to secure a clean, prosperous, and zero carbon future for all. And we're motivated here because climate change is a great societal problem. It's hurting people around the world today, rather. It affects people, it affects families, and limits our ability to thrive in our communities. We know we all feel that. My own family living outside of Boulder, Colorado, we experienced a wildfire in the end of December 2021 that forced the evacuation of our whole community. And so this is an example. Climate change is driving people from their homes. It's affecting the food we eat, the way we live our lives, and there's great risks ahead of us. But we also have a big opportunity together to help the affordable housing sector lead the world in doing something really hard. And we know that there's so much inertia and competing priorities that face us all in attempting to solve this challenge, but we can change our energy use in the buildings to demonstrate leadership in this space and show that things are possible, and we can do it in a way that delivers benefits for the families, the residents who live their lives in these spaces, to help them improve their health, their comfort, make their lives more affordable, more resilient to the shocks of climate change, and really just support those families to experience the benefits of a clean energy future. And so we were thrilled to partner with HPM and Enterprise in bringing these resources to bear, and hope they're useful, and hope we'll hear all your feedback and how to make them more useful and help us all solve this problem together. So thank you, and I'm passing it back to Adam.
Excellent. Thank you, Mike. So I want to take a couple minutes just to give a little bit of background on why the founding partners of this effort, Enterprise, RMI, and HPN, decided to take a collaborative approach, and really what that means for both us and our ambitions with the impact of the hub. HPN, as a member organization, for us, facilitating collaborative space for knowledge sharing and generation, it's really been baked into our operating system and contributes to our kind of intent as we approach solutions and shared challenges, and really a desire to pursue opportunities collaboratively. We recognize that our members really have substantial knowledge and experience, but don't hold all of the knowledge, and really that we're limited. We are a big network, but we don't reach a lot of affordable housing, many of which is unsubsidized and naturally occurring. And our members tend to be fairly large and relatively high capacity. But we want to make sure that decarbonization is scaled and in a timely manner, and support getting knowledgeable resources to the folks that need it at times that need it. And so in recognizing that the challenge was much broader than us, and we collaborate not just with our members, but across partners in the sector more broadly, on conversations with some of those partners, Enterprise and RMI, we learned that there was a shared need and expressed desire to build a space that was really curating resources that practitioners, policy folks, advocates, lenders, and other stakeholders could use. We wanted to create a dynamic interface that could collect information about the resources that are needed but might not exist yet. And in recognizing that there's a lot of incredible resources being generated, but there wasn't a central platform to be able to vet and elevate those resources, we were interested in taking an approach that brought those content to folks in a thoughtful way. HPN, Enterprise, and RMI, we feel like we are relatively high trust as organizations and have substantial scale in being able to reach practitioners and different stakeholders that could use resources, but also networks of folks who are building out resources in a hope of developing efficiencies and delivering useful resources to folks who need it. So we were very intentional also about establishing a advisory committee of really incredible, thoughtful experts and deep experience in a suite of different spaces across the policy environment and practitioner environment and funder environment and so forth. And we're really glad to have their engagement in the execution of this and providing insights. So an important component here is really preventing duplication and breaking down silos. Those are really fundamental to why we decided to approach this collaboratively. I'm going to pause there and pass it off to my colleague, Karen, who's going to give a bit of an insight into the hub as it exists today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Karen Alfred, and I'm the Associate for Green and Healthy Communities at HPN. And I'm going to walk through the hub itself. So let me share my screen. Okay, so this is the Affordable Housing Decarbonization Hub. And I want to point out that the URL housingdecarbhub.org will direct you to this website. It is hosted on Enterprise's website. And so that this menu bar up top is for the overall Enterprise website. And then this blue bar down here is for the hub itself. And so I'll scroll through the homepage fairly quickly. Want to highlight that we have featured resources front and center. So we have featured resources and some recent resources, and we'll update that as we add new content. The next thing that we highlight is our Ask the Expert feature, which I'll talk about a bit later. But this is our chance for users to ask questions and then for us to respond in a timely manner. And then finally, we have upcoming events and opportunities and more about the partners. I'll go through the About page as well. And again, some of this is a background that we have already talked about, why we created the hub, how we came together to form the partnership, and who is involved in the process. Okay, so moving on to the resources page, which is the main event, really. Here you have our resources. We list the resources. We have the title and a brief description, as well as the topics that the resources are related to. And then over here, there's a chance to filter. So you can filter by topic, whether that's decarbonization or Inflation Reduction Act. You can filter by resource type. So let's say, you want a case study or you want a report, you can choose that. And then finally, you can filter by region. And so whether that's the Midwest, the Northeast, or the West, we will add more regions as we add more content to the site. I'm going to do 2 scenarios of how to use or how someone could use the hub. In the first scenario, let's say I am on the communications team of my organization and I need to do a write-up on building electrification. Now, I don't know much about building electrification. And so I come to this hub and I see that a lot of these things seem a bit in depth. We have these case studies and reports, and I don't need that level of detail. And so I decide to filter by resource type. And I think a video might be a good jumping point. So I select video, and then it refreshes and shows me my options. And the first option is what is building decarbonization? And that sounds like a really good place to start. So I click the link and it takes me to the resources page. And again, you see the brief description. I see that it was made by Elevate and it's related to renewable energy. I'm not going to click this link because it will take me to the YouTube page and start playing. But if you were to click the link, then you would go directly to the video. A second example, we know a lot of folks are interested in funding opportunities, particularly with funds coming out of the Inflation Reduction Act. And let's say I want to know more about just what are some of the options I can start looking into. I'll come and I'll decide to filter by funding and financing. So I'll select that, and then I'll see what my options are. And here, this database of state incentives for renewables seems like a good place to start. And so I click the link and it takes me to that resources page. And so this time I will actually go to the website because something we wanted to be sure of was that we were linking directly to the source of some of the resources, so that if people needed to know more, they could poke around themselves and see what's out there. Okay, so that is a brief overview of our resources page. Now I'll go to our Ask the Expert page. And this is because we wanted to have a level of interaction and to be responsive to our users' needs. And so we have this feature where people can directly submit a question, and then we'll do our best to get a response out. Also on this page, we highlight our advisory committee that Adam mentioned that have really guided the direction of the hub. And I just want to note that the advisory committee isn't necessarily answering all the questions, but between the advisory committee and the hub team, when a question comes in, we see if anyone in the group is able to answer it effectively. And then if not, we'll reach out to a broader community of experts. And so far, these are some of the people we've worked with, and we'll add more profiles as we answer more questions. So scrolling down on this page, this is the form where you can submit your question for the expert. And then underneath we have our answers. And so I'll take this first one. As a building owner interested in electrification, what should I consider? I click it and I see a brief response, but then I can click down here and say, view the full answer. And that takes me to the questions page, and then I can read the in-depth response. And so between our resources page and the Ask the Expert page, we really encourage you to poke around and see what's there, and then let us know if there's anything missing, and I'll show you how to do that very soon. But rounding out this demo, I want to show our events page. We have upcoming events and opportunities that we know of. We would really like to hear more about other events going on that we may have missed. And so we encourage you to submit your suggestions on this form. And then finally, we have our overall contact form. And so again, we would like to hear your feedback and suggestions if there's anything that's missing, if there's something you want to see more of, if you have questions on where things can be found, we encourage you to let us know. And that is it for my demo. And so we'll move on to our question and answer portion.
Thanks, Karen, for walking us through that. And as folks can see, there is really a wealth of information on this hub. And again, it's a living resource. So we are looking for all of you to contribute to it, give your suggestions, ask questions. And I see some questions coming in the site here. I see one from Michael asking about resilience in addition to decarbonization. So I will kind of give my thoughts on this, and then of course invite any of the team to join in answering some of these questions. I see resilience as being kind of inextricably linked to decarbonization and sustainability. So we certainly think about that a lot at RMI, and increasingly so, and anticipate seeing more resources relating to that and tying the two together on the hub. And then again, if you have suggestions on either resources that are already existing that you think should be collected in the hub, or questions that you or a colleague don't have a good answer to and you would like an answer to relating to resilience, feel free to use some of those tools that Karen showed to submit those into the hub.
And I will point out, we do have a filter on our resources page for climate resilience, and we've got some great resources there already. But as Lucas said, we're open to more. So please feel free to submit some more.
And I'll just briefly build on that. I would echo what Lucas shared about resilience being inextricably linked, and would add that we're building this out in real time and aiming to be responsive to the needs of folks. So in addition to resilience, if there are more specific sub areas that users would find valuable to develop resources or host resources on, we aim to be responsive to that.
So I see a question here about opportunity for consultants or businesses to partner with our organizations, with the hub, to help multifamily buildings decarbonize. So, I think the hub on the one hand is intended to be sort of a neutral forum. On the other hand, I think each of us in our work, commonly engages with multifamily, building owners and operators. And so, through that work, there are oftentimes, requests for specific consultants or businesses. And I anticipate that enterprise, HPN, and RMI all would, welcome the opportunity to make connections between sort of qualified providers of services and some of those owners and operators that we work with. So I see this being, this partnership being a kind of an opportunity to help make some of those connections. And then I see here a question on a policy update per region available on the portal site. So we have, again, we're going to have a kind of growing set of information, including, Karen mentioned, for example, different funding opportunities relating to IRA and resources around that may be, regional as well as national. So we'll be looking to continuously update those resources relating to policies and regional resources. And again, another opportunity where if you see either a need for a specific kind of resource or even for a sort of category of resources that you feel is not well represented on the site, we invite folks to provide that feedback. There's also, with this group, the opportunity to, look for support to develop new resources if those don't exist already. And so even if you don't think something exists at all, it's still worth asking about because, we might be able to, convince folks to help us in developing things that are new. And I know all three of our organizations do develop resources that are regionally specific. And so those are or will be tied into the hub. And I'm going to defer Stephanie's question on what would you say to an organization that is just getting started learning about decarbonization, to one of my other colleagues on the line, because I think others are probably better at answering this kind of question than I am.
Ray, I'm happy to kick it off.
I think you should take the first swing, Adam.
Great. Thanks for the question, Stephanie. So I think there's a number of different reasons that might be attractive to a particular organization, and depending on the context, geography, and circumstances of your organization, you might have certain reasons that rise to the top. In certain situations, improving your building's energy and emissions performance may result in operating savings. It very well could improve the health conditions, environmental health conditions of residents. and of building operators, so staff for a affordable housing organization. Those are really important considerations. Then there's potential obligations from a regulatory perspective that come into play depending on your geography. There are certain geographies, expanding cities and states that have climate commitments, and some of them have penalties for not meeting decarbonization requirements. So there could be costs associated with not decarbonizing. That could be an important reason. Obviously, resilience has come up. There may be natural disasters and extreme weather circumstances, and investing in resilience strategies and associated decarbonization may improve your portfolio's ability to weather the storm, having real health and safety outcomes. And I would also, be remiss to not highlight the fact that we have a tremendous opportunity to bring resources from federal climate policy, such as the Inflation Reduction Act, to bear and improve our buildings by leveraging some of these resources. So the subsidies in the form of incentives and rebates are tremendous, and we're at really a watershed moment. And viewing this within the lens of preservation of your housing stock is, I think, a really important perspective to take in an organization.
Ray gave a nod as if to say,
I mean, I think Adam just about nailed it. I don't have much to say. It's top to bottom, perfect.
Great question here from Laura on faith communities, and the fact that many faith communities are considering or planning multifamily low-income housing on underutilized property. I am not sure off the top of my head if we have existing resources that are really specific to faith communities. Ray, were you going to jump in here?
I'm pretty sure we don't have anything that speaks to the unique concerns of faith communities, Laura. I appreciate the question. Enterprise does have a faith-based development initiative, and I'll speak with those folks in the coming weeks and see if we can't track down what folks in those communities are working with and looking for. And we would love to get in touch offline and find out how we can help and build something that others could learn from too. Thanks for the question.
And I'll quickly add to that I think all of us have heard the importance of faith communities as a trusted network for bi-directional information exchange. And so to the extent that folks have suggestions on resources that would be helpful to either consolidate or develop, that would then in turn be helpful to community faith leaders to help to convey some of these information lessons to folks in the community that might be interested in them, but wouldn't necessarily get them in other ways. I for one would be very interested in hearing feedback on that. So it looks like we are almost out of time here. So I'm going to wrap us up. I see a few other questions in here that we will definitely consider offline. Thanks again so much, everyone, for the time, the engagement. Just in closing, if you haven't yet, encourage everyone here to spend just 15 minutes poking around the hub one morning or evening this month with your beverage of choice. Maybe share the hub with a couple of colleagues that you think would find it useful so we can really expand the reach. And then again, encourage you to engage with the website or suggest to someone you know to engage with the website by submitting an Ask the Expert question or a resource suggestion so that we can keep making it a live and active resource for everyone here and beyond. With that, I'll say thanks again to the panelists, the hub organizations, and everyone on the line. And we'll look forward to talking to some of you soon.